When you encounter Miquella in Elden Ring, he is held captive by Mog in the mausoleum stated to be the birthplace of Mog's new dynasty. The first thing you notice about this meeting is that Miquella appears to be in some kind of shell. When I saw this, my first thought was of the egg that cracks and transports you to the final fight of Dark Souls 3 against Slave Knight Gale. However, FromSoft's design of Miquella's apparently slumbering state is so unique that it warrants more attention than that. The first clue you get about Miquella is from Gideon, who lets you know that Miquella embedded himself in the Halig tree but was cut out before he could finish. He also refers to Miquella as sleeping in a cocoon. The idea that this is a typical insect cocoon has a little bit of support in the game. First, Melania transforms into what looks like a butterfly in her second phase, and her signature attack is referred to as a waterfowl dance, which basically means an aquatic bird. However, I believe what we're looking at here is actually a mushroom. Now I know what you're thinking. At first glance, the cocoon holding Miquella doesn't look like a mushroom. But what we typically think of as mushrooms are actually fungal fruits, whereas the majority of the fungus exists beneath the soil in what are called mycelium networks. These networks are enormous collections of tiny silk-like fungal veins that connect to trees and other plants to exchange water, minerals, and information. They act as lines of communication across entire forests and allow mother trees with the strongest connections to look after younger trees. I have put a link to a short, interesting article in the description if you want to read more. For the purposes of this video though, you just need to know that our understanding of mycelium networks has increased significantly over the past few years. And while I don't consider myself qualified to lecture you on the topic, there have been big breakthroughs and big news stories in this field somewhat recently. I think the developers could have picked up on this and incorporated it into Elden Ring. If you played the newest Resident Evil game, you may also recall that mycelium formed an integral part of that story as well. Going back to Miquella, it makes more sense to view the cocoon as consistent of mycelium veins rather than insect silk. I don't think Miquella has a strong enough connection to the game's insect themes to conclude it's a normal cocoon. First, we know that he embedded himself in the Halig tree, and if you go to Melania's boss room, you can see an alcove in the roots that looks like about the right size and shape to hold Miquella's cocoon, suggesting that this is where he embedded himself, in the roots of the tree, where mycelium grows. And how would this process of embedding actually work? Embedding yourself into a tree is a really specific thing to do. And concluding that Miquella is in some way encased in or transforming into mycelium explains how this would be achieved, as mycelium bores into and around tree roots and forms a symbiotic relationship with trees. You could get past this by saying that Miquella is a holy being in Elden Ring and assume his Empyrean nature allows him to connect to the Halig tree. However, he's not so holy or powerful as to stop Mog from coming and cutting him out of the tree and abducting him, so he does have realistic limits, even for the fantasy world of Elden Ring. We also know that the Halig tree is dying. Gideon tells you it's now but a husk, which would make sense for a tree that had something so key to survival cut out and stolen. The next question is, why would Miquella want to be embedded in the Halig tree? Well, item descriptions suggest that the thing Miquella wants most is to cure the scarlet rot. Mycelium is critical in helping trees fight off disease and pests, so perhaps the game views this as a route for dealing with the scarlet rot. And maybe, just maybe, what Mog actually wants is a new tree for his dynasty to rival the Erd tree, and he sees Miquella as a way to do that, which would make Miquella himself a truffle.